Welcome to 100 Women, Vera Wang. You are a woman who needs no introduction, fashion icon, entrepreneur. Thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You now run a vast business empire. I mean, you go from ready-to-wear, home, fragrance, alcoholic spirits. But
Yep.
you really did make your name and were synonymous with the white dress. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how you got your unlikely start in bridal fashion.
My unlikely start, that's pretty fair and it's pretty true. I think I was the girl least expected to get married, and I waited to the ripe old age of 40. But in all honesty, I think my life, or I, was very much defined by what my career path was. When I finally got engaged, there weren't very many dresses that I found were suitable for a 40-year-old bride, which perhaps today doesn't sound as old. But most of the brides I was shopping for dresses with were 25. And I said, there's gotta be something for someone my age. And not only that, I came from Vogue magazine where I was a senior fashion editor. So my experience at Vogue, with the entire world of fashion at my disposal, made me a little bit more, I think, careful about what kind of dress I wanted to wear, more knowledgeable. And so there really wasn't anything out there that made me feel it was the right dress for me. And that's sort of what prompted this whole business. It's been almost, in a weird way, random, but nonetheless, amazing things have happened because of the way I live my life.
You know, today it's even harder for someone to start their own label. What challenges do you think come with that pressure that your label is very much based on you?
I think it's enormous. I think that's an incredibly valid question when you are very much defined by who you are as a brand, and people know your brand for you. There are always issues that come up related to, the next generation and what are the plans for the company and what do you intend to do as a strategy going forward. And when you're that identifiable with the brand and perhaps a bit of that kind of celebrity, it does add more pressure. There's no question about it. I think for me, there's been good parts about it, and there have been parts of it that have been frustrating. I am my brand and I represent my brand, but I have an incredible group of people that support me behind my brand. You have to function together. It's impossible otherwise.
It's a high pressure industry for sure, and the reviews aren't always glowing. You've had your fair share of when there was the Black Bridal collection. Many people didn't understand that.
I mean, I don't know if it was that it wasn't glowing. I think that, I've always been a bit of a rebel, and I think that, I don't think that it even was a rebel. I just am a creator. And I think when you spend 30 plus years doing wedding gowns, you sort of have to change it up a little bit. I just thought you have to give brides a certain freedom and a certain opportunity to shake it up a little bit. And girls today, we encourage so much diversity, but women have always been diverse. It just hasn't been acknowledged and it hasn't been accepted. And I like to think that when I came to bridal, I wasn't a bridal designer. I was a fashion insider who happened to design wedding dresses. So there were no rules for me. And I just said, you know what? I want girls to have a choice. If they want to wear a mini or if they want to wear a bathing suit, it's not about that. It's about who they are. So I think diversity has always been a part of my own nature as a woman and how I've lived my own life. Once again, I live the life that I espouse. So for me, it's very natural, it's very organic, and I hope it's very authentic.
Absolutely. And the reason I brought that up is for a woman who prides herself in breaking the rules. I mean, how do you deal with failure?
I think most of my life has been defined by failure. I mean, I was a very serious elite athlete, and I devoted about 16 years of my life to trying to qualify in the Olympics as a skater, and never quite made that cut. And so for me, you know, when I saw that my career was going nowhere, I really had a nervous breakdown. I was lost. And fashion was the thing that really took the place for me of skating. It really gave me all those components, you know, shows and music and editing and design and creativity and storytelling, all the things that I loved about skating, I took with me into fashion. My fashion has not been limited to two-dimensional sketches or even just draping. It's been about storytelling, it's been about emotion, it's been about perhaps romance in many ways, and I think a lot of daring. I think I've been fairly fearless. And that just is sort of part of having been an athlete and part of having been a woman, I think, who's lived my life, I think on my own terms, pretty much.
You consider yourself very much a feminist. I mean,
I'm a real feminist from way back when it was called feminism. I mean, I think it came very naturally from my generation that Woodstock was not, well, perhaps it's been interpreted as a fashion statement at Coachella and Burning Man and some of these festivals, Glastonbury, but the real truth is in my era, it was a political statement as well. It wasn't just about styling yourself. It was about a sense that we were young and we believed that we should have a say in what goes on in the world, and we brought a different viewpoint than what had come before. And so it wasn't embraced purely from a fashion point of view. It was embraced from an intellectual and emotional point of view. So while I wasn't a hippie per se, I very much understood that people were questioning their lifestyles and their life choices, and was this the only possibility? And that has been one of the little steps or major steps that has gotten us where we are today, bit by bit, step by step. And about fashion, I've always said, does fashion define lifestyle? In other words, do you live a life that is defined by how you dress? Or do you wear clothes that reflect the life you're living? And for me, in the past, you dress to suit your lifestyle and what was dictated to you in the past. But now, including the pandemic and everything that's going on in our world, I think that fashion is defined by how people live. It's the reverse.
you've been an insider for over 50 years. Do you feel like there finally is a real thought of resetting when it comes to diversity in fashion, of all different ethnicities on the catwalk, in production, body shapes, all types of diversity?
I think it's, I think women have always been diverse. I mean, that's the beauty of women. But I think now people accept so many different kinds of beauty. I mean, it's a global vision rather than these pods of what beauty or how beauty is defined even within the United States. And I think that is incredible. And it changes your eye as a creator. It changes my eye constantly. I'm constantly viewing women, even men, in a different context. I'll name a few icons: Jackie Kennedy, Grace Kelly, Marilyn Monroe. I mean, these are all various icons that brought something to fashion. And today, you do see variations on some of that. I mean, you really do, but in a new way, in a more personal way. It's not just for movie stars or first ladies or princesses. It's kind of democratized now, and that's kind of great.
I think one of the big issues that came up during this pandemic is the one of sustainability.
Yes, no question.
Do you think that the two can really ever go hand in hand, fashion and sustainability? And is that something that you as a designer are thinking very seriously about now more than ever?
I think we've always thought about it. I don't think that it was a topic we could tackle as an industry globally that immediately, because by this very demand for speed and deliveries and That, by its very definition, makes sustainability very difficult on every level. And then when you factor in what's going on with the planet and what's going on with the techniques that are needed to develop fabric, and now that we're working newer fabrics like plastics and molded rubber and things like that, that we take them for granted, but look at a sneaker. You know, it's going to take a lot of technology and a lot of investment to find ways to produce that kind of forward thinking and new way of lifestyle dressing and yet not pollute our environment. So I don't think it's that simple a question. Do we all wish we were more sustainable? Absolutely. But, you know, the demands prior to the pandemic were unbelievable pressure on the fashion industry. I mean, it was faster and faster and newer and newer. And I don't know how the two can go together. One has to be way more, I think, scientific in a weird way and way more thoughtful. And these changes are not going to happen within a day. You don't just flip a switch and suddenly silk doesn't involve water and a certain kind of water and how that silk is made and whether it's in Italy or France or whether it's made in China. These are all global questions for fashion.
Have you reflected during the pandemic over what the future of fashion then might look like?
I think that the future of fashion for me is exciting because the future of the world and life is exciting. I mean, people just went into outer space and people who aren't even astronauts can go, civilians. I think it's really exciting, and it too will affect how we dress. Once again, I'm going to say it, lifestyle, possibilities, unlimited boundaries, that will affect fashion.
Well, you've certainly lived through some amazing milestones, and I think what's been so interesting during this pandemic as well is people getting to really see a lot of your personality on social media, and really commenting about how great you look. I mean, a photo of you in a sports bra went viral, and I just wonder, how did you react to that? What did you make of that attention?
It was really shocking. I've never been to a gym that I've necessarily seen women not in sports attire. I mean, bicycle pants, short shorts, sports bras. So I didn't think that was so risque. I just was trying to show some barrettes in my hair that were, you know, sort of large. And I thought if I started getting very dressed up, you'd never notice what was in my hair. And so I was really a bit shocked. I don't know, I've sort of pretty much been the same person for quite a long time. You can look at my history on the red carpet at the Met. I just was sort of astonished, actually. I thought, God, people must be really bored and I've got nothing to do at home. I mean, it's nice that people thought that about me. It's very complimentary, and I'm very grateful for that. But, you know, I've been asked, what are my secrets, right? And I've got to be really honest. One of them is sleep. I value sleeping enormously. I value having a vodka cocktail at the end of the day because it helps me to transition from a very intense work schedule to a bit of a private life. The real answer to why I think I may be perceived as being youthful is more about perhaps my energy, and I think it really has to do with my passion for what I do, work. I have been in fashion since I was 19 years old, not in front of the camera, behind it. I never thought about youth. I never thought about going way out of my way to preserve youth in a fanatical, obsessive way. Probably because I work with the most beautiful women in the world on a daily basis. And because of that, I more envision them as my muses. And I think when you don't think about aging in that way, maybe it's in a way better. Maybe it's, I don't know, healthier or I don't know, maybe it's a way of dealing with aging that is productive, if that makes any sense. So I always said that vodka cocktail, a lot of sleep, but work. Work is the magic elixir. It really is. It keeps your mind occupied. And when your mind is occupied, I think everything else follows.
Well, you're certainly changing the perspective of what it means to be 72 and how age influences.
I don't think any woman is thrilled by that in a way, but at the same time, I'm kind of proud of it because I think it speaks to other women. And I don't mean just women, I think it speaks to men. Ageism has always existed. I see it in a child who wants, like my goddaughter Belle, I see it that she wants to do more. She wants to be an adult. Why can't I go out with you guys for dinner? Why can't I wear what I want to wear? Why can't I? Because you can't, because mommy says no. I see what a lot of my godchildren are going through, and my own daughters. I see how hard it is. So there's ageism there. You're not old enough. You're not old enough to be CEO. You're not experienced enough. You don't have enough knowledge. So there's ageism there. There's always an ageism somewhere all the way along the way. And then as you get older, you have to find your own relevancy and your own reason and your own hope and your own happiness and your own desire for how you're going to spend the rest of your life. These are not small issues at every step of the way. Ageism today is only associated with people who are chronologically at a certain age, a number. It's a number. But in many cases, I see people doing their very best work because they have the confidence. Whenever I feel like I'm lost before a collection, I tell myself this even today. Well, I've been here before. This is not my first time at the rodeo, and I've come through. So I talk myself into the fact that I can do this. And I know that may sound odd at my stage in my career, but experience stands for a lot too. Knowledge, wisdom, patience, care. These things, you grow every day in your life. You have to try and continue to grow in one way or another. And that's why I find ageism so old-fashioned.
You've used your platform on social media to speak out about anti-Asian hate.
Yes.
We've seen a rise in this during the pandemic. I mean, how personal was this for you, and to be able to have that platform to speak out about this?
Well, first it was very shocking because I began to hear stories that people that were just going grocery shopping were being knocked down on the ground and their groceries stolen. And I just couldn't understand that, well, I can't understand any kind of cruelty, whether it's on a personal level or whether it's on a global level or whether it's targeted any group of people. I couldn't understand how you could hit a woman who's in her 80s with her groceries. I don't understand that because she's Asian. I grew up in an Asian household in America, so I'm Asian. And although I like to think I'm extremely American, I also know that I bring that part of my Asian culture with me into everything I do. It's always present as a part of me. And I think we are encouraged to behave. We are encouraged to toe the line, to respect elders, to be kind, to work hard, to achieve, and to stand on our own 2 feet. And that's part of, particularly Chinese culture. I myself have always been a little bit of a rebel, just a bit, but nonetheless, I hope respectful. And that's why it's particularly painful. I just feel that, if you're trying to live your life and be a good citizen and make contributions as well, and bring your culture and bring in that melting pot that is United States, that you're not going to be punished for it or hurt or attacked. So it's been very troubling for me.
I think for that and so many other reasons, women are now saying that they really feel there's a need for a reset after the pandemic, that things can't go back to the old way. Do you think that that's an important thing for you right now in your life?
Well, I had to reset for so many reasons. I mean, I had employees that had worked for me faithfully for 2 decades or more. And with everything that happened in the fashion industry, I tried to hold on for as long as I could. And when many stores, retail, bricks and mortar, were shut down for 8 months to a year and offices were closed, some have not reopened and they're operating through Zoom, it had to have affected our industry. I was thinking of myself as a hamster on a wheel or the treadmill speeding up and I can't keep up. And I think the pandemic allowed me time to think. The pandemic made us all slow down. It forced us to confront the speed at which we're functioning. It forced us to confront our own value system, our own ambitions, life and death, family, politics, and we now see we're all vulnerable to the exact same things. And hopefully the sooner we can all work together and help each other and try to save, in an obvious sense, the planet, but in a more intellectual, existential way, our lives, I think the better.
Vera Wang, thank you for having this discussion with 100 Women.
I'm just so honored to have been asked. Thank you.